Hello, students. How are you all? So, I am back and we will continue studying again. I hope you all enjoyed the break and finished all the notes of chapters 1 and 2 and the question answers and the timeline drawings because now we are doing section 2 today, which is empires. So, we will look at the timeline today, the timeline of the second section. The timeline of this chapter focuses on kingdoms and empires. Some of these, such as Roman Empire, were very large. They spread across approximately 3 continents. This was also the time when major religious and cultural traditions developed. It was a time when institutions of intellectual activity emerged. Books were written, ideas traveled across continents. Some things that are now part of our everyday lives were used for the very first time during this period. So, just like we saw in section 1, we will look at the timeline of section 2. Like in section 1, you will again draw a timeline in your notebooks, color coding the regions because the timeline, the stretch of time will be the same period, but there will be different developments in different regions. So in Africa, in 100 to 50 BCE, BCE means before Common Era. Bananas were introduced from Southeast Asia to East Africa through sea routes. Cleopatra was the queen of Egypt in 50 to 1 BCE. We have no information about the first 100 years of Common Era. And 100 to 150, we saw the hero Alexandria makes a machine that runs on steam. This happened for the first time. 150 to 200, we have Ptolemy of Alexandria, who writes a work on geography. 300 to 350, Christianity was introduced in Axum. Axum, you will see the picture of Axum on somewhere in here. And then 400 to 450, Vandals from Europe set up a kingdom in North Africa. In the brackets, you can even see the exact dates if there are any. In Europe, we saw that Spartacus leads revolt of about 100,000 slaves. Then there is building of Colosseum in Rome. And then the Roman Empire was at its peak in 100 to 150 years before Common Era. You saw that Constantine becomes the emperor and he establishes the city of Constantinople. Roman empires were divided into eastern and western halves, and Roman Empire were invaded by tribes from North and Central Europe. Then we see in 450 to 500 years before Common Era that conversion of Clovis. This is Common Era now, sorry, not before Common Era. So we see the conversion of Clovis of Gaul to Christianity. 500 to 550, we saw Saint Benedict. He establishes a monastery in Italy. Saint Augustine introduces Christianity in England. Gregory the Great lays the foundation of the power of Roman Catholic Church. 600 to 650, we see the immigration of some Muslims to Abyssinia, 650 to 700, Muslim Arabs sign a treaty with Nubia, which is south of Egypt. 800 to 850, we see the rise of kingdom in Ghana. And 1050 to 1100, we see the Almoravid kingdom, which extends from Ghana to southern Spain. In Europe, we will see we have that in 650 to 700, Bede writes the history of English church and people. 800 to 850, Charlemagne, king of France, was crowned Holy Roman Emperor. 850 to 900, the first Russian states were founded at Kiev and Novgorod. 900 to 950, Vikings raids across Western Europe. 1000 to 150, medical schools are set up in Italy, and 1050 to 1100, William Normandy invades England and becomes a king. Proclamation of the First Crusade. In Africa, Zimbabwe emerged as a center for production of gold, copper, artifacts, and long-distance trade. And Christian churches have been established in Ethiopia. Kingdom of Mali in the West Africa, with Timbuktu as a center of learning. In Europe, we see the construction of Cathedral of Notre Dame begin. Saint Francis of Assisi sets up a monastic order, emphasizing austerity and compassion. Lords in England rebel against the king, who signed the Magna Carta, accepting to rule according to law. Establishment of Habsburg dynasty that continued to rule Austria till 1980. Next, we see Asia and South Asia. Here let's read this timeline with a comparison of each other. So in 100 to 50 before Common Era, we see that the Han Empire in China, we saw the development of Silk Route from Asia to Europe. In South Asia, we see Bactrian Greeks, and Shakas establish kingdoms in the northwest. The rise of Satavahanas in the Deccan. Then there is growing trade between South Asia, Southeast and East Asia, and Europe. 1 to 50 years of Common Era, first 50 years, Jesus Christ in Judea, a province of Roman Empire, and Roman invasion of Arabia. Next, in South Asia, we see the establishment of Kushan state in Northwest and Central Asia. 100 to 150 years, we see paper was invented in China and development of the first seismograph. Then we see the end of the Han Empire and Sassanid rule in Persia. There is tea at the royal court. China, use of magnetic compass. Chinese start using stirrups while riding horses. 300 to 350 years, we see the establishment of Gupta dynasty, and Faxian travels from China to India. 450 to 500 years in Common Era, Aryabhatta, the astronomer and mathematician. So this is a comparative study. By 550 to 600, we see that Buddhism has been introduced in Japan. Grand Canal to transport grain built in China by 500,000 workers over 34 years. While making a timeline in your notebook, if you all find any interesting pictures, please paste them or draw them. In Asia, then, the Tang dynasty in China, Prophet Muhammad goes to Medina, the beginning of the Hijri era, collapse of the Sasanian era. The Umayyad Caliphate, a branch of Umayyads conquer Spain, Tang dynasty established in China. 750 to 800 BC, Abbasid Caliphate established, and Baghdad becomes a major cultural and commercial center. 800 to 850 BC, the Khmer state found in Cambodia. First book is printed in China in 868. 950 to 1000 BC, use of paper money in China. And 1000 to 1050 BC, Ibn Sina, a Persian doctor who writes a medicinal text that is followed for centuries. And 1050 to 1100 BC, the establishment of Turkish Empire by Alp Arslan. In South Asia, we see the Chalukya temples in Bandami and Aihole. We see that Zhuangzhang travels from China to India, and Nalanda becomes an important educational institute center. Arabs have conquered Sindh, and Muhammad of Ghazni raids the northwest. Al-Biruni will travel to India. Rajraswasra temple will be built at Thanjavur. Then 1100 to 1150, first recorded display of fireworks in China. Angkor Empire, Cambodia is at its height. Temple complex of Angkor Wat. Then Genghis Khan consolidates power, and 1250 to 1300 we see that Kublai Khan, who is the grandson of Genghis Khan, becomes the emperor of China. In South Asia, we see Kalhana writes the Raja Tarangini, establishment of Delhi Sultanate, and Amir Khusrau introduces new forms of poetry and music. And then there is Sun Temple of Konark. So we have finished 4 regions: Africa, Europe, Asia, and South Asia. Now we will study America and Australia. In America, in 300 to 350, city-state of Teotihuacan established in Mexico, with pyramid temples, Mayan ceremonial centers, and development of astronomy pictorial script. First city is built in America, in North America in 950 to 1000 Common Era. And Maori navigator from Polynesia discovers New Zealand. Sweet potato originated from South America, and it's grown in the Polynesian islands. This is the end of the timeline. This is your activity. You will identify 5 events or processes that would have involved the movement of people across regions or continents. Find 5 events or more, or 5 processes that would involve movement of people across from one region to another, or movement across continents. What would have been the significance of those events or processes?
So out of these timeline, you will find 5 events from any region, not one region, 5 events. Out of the 6 regions, any 5 events that would have involved movement of people across region or continent. And after finding those 5 events, I want you all to also write the significance of those events or process. So with this, I end today's chapter. Stay home, stay safe, take care and keep learning. Homework will be completing the timeline of this section and doing this activity. Bye. Have a great day.